Welcome back, everyone. Now, before we continue with our cart context, let's just make sure we've cleaned up everything up till this point so far. In the last video, we added a few console logs that I want you to remove as well. If you have, then that's great. If not, please do that now. And inside of your context, if you have not deleted your user context and your category context, please delete those as well. So with our cart context, there are a lot of little micro functions, utility functions, as well as a lot of the separation of logic that we did so far. There are a couple things that we need to think about when it comes to how we migrate this code over into Redux. It's everything we've already learned, but there are just a few more steps. One key thing is that so far we've been storing our cart count and cart total actually on the reducer itself. So here, what we've learned so far is that with these selectors, we can actually extrapolate out that data, and we can also make it relatively performant as long as we make sure to memorize them using reselect. So that's what we're going to do. Beyond that, a couple other things we want to do is just make sure that we capture all of the logic in the right places when coding this out. So to begin, what we're going to do is let's go into our store and let's set up and scaffold all of the things we need in order to get this Redux up and running. So I'm going to make the cart folder. I'm going to make the action.js. I'm going to make, of course, the reducer.js. I'm going to make the selector.js. And I'm going to make the types.js. All the things that we need. And then what we'll do is we will slowly migrate over into each of these files, the different things that we've already created. For example, we know that we already have the reducer and the initial state. We, of course, have to tweak some of these in order for this to work and fit our current model. So cart initial state. And then the next thing we need to do, of course, we need to set our state equal to cart initial state and our action equal to a empty object if no action is passed. Then by default, we just also return the state. The next thing we need is cart action types. So here, let's go to our cart context. Let's grab our cart action types, point them into our cart types. And let's also add cart slash in front of each of these strings because now every single reducer gets every single action. So we want to be very clear and explicit about which one should be receiving it. And then what we need now is we need to actually create and move in the types. So we're going to import in our cart action types, export out this reducer, and put this reducer inside of our root reducer. There we go. So here we have our cart reducer. We just attach it to cart like so. And now for our first sanity check, let's just make sure our reducer is actually inside of our application. So here, when we initialized, what we see is our next state object. And on the next state, we see on cart, we indeed have all of our initial values. So there we go, we've set up our reducer. Now we need to think about the hard parts, which is the actions as well as the selectors. So as I mentioned, our selectors should be what actually extrapolates out the logic that we had before that we were doing when we were pushing the values into our reducer in context. Because now instead of doing it before it goes into context, we're no longer storing cart count and cart total. We want to extract that into selectors. So to do that, what we need to do is just make sure that based on the cart items, we want to move this over. So let's copy this into our selectors first. Let's also make sure to import in our create selector from reselect. As far as the selector logic goes, the key thing that we know that we need to extract off is the cart items. So currently though, we are storing cart total as cart quantity. So what we can do is we can get rid of these values. And we need to make sure as well that when we set, all we're setting now is just cart items. So we can just pass it as the payload, which will be our cart items. I think I'm realizing that when we look at our cart context, I did not make a new setter function that uses reducer. Instead, we're still using useState. So this is an oversight on my part, but this is a very quick, simple setter that if you wanted to set, you could make it yourself. Maybe some of you have noticed that I missed that, but no worries. We'll do it now inside of our cart reducer. So all we need to do is just switch the case. I believe, in fact, we even have a set is cart open. Yes, we do. It's just an oversight on my part. We just need is cart open to point to the payload, which will pass as a Boolean. So for us, let's create the actions that will do this. Here inside, we want to import in our cart types. And then what we'll do is we'll export const set is cart open, which will receive a Boolean. And we also need to import in create action, because what we'll do is we'll create an action with the cart action types, set is cart open, and pass the Boolean as the value for the payload. Now for the remaining actions, this is going to be a little different. When you think about the cart context, the way we had it before is we had these helper functions that we exposed, and what they did is they would update the reducer, but we would also generate what the new cart items would be here and do this as these functions. This you can kind of see as your action creators. All you need to do with the action is the action needs to figure out what to update inside of our final reducer. So what we'll do is we will make sure that our cart actions are the ones that do so. In order to do this, we will probably need all of these different helper functions that we've created. So I'm going to copy these over first, move these at the bottom. And each of them rely on some utility function that helps us actually derive the new cart items. So I'm going to copy these over as well. And there should be one more for clear cart down here. Actually, we should have moved this right here for more clarity. But no worries. We have it now. And now it's just a matter of modifying these new action creators so that they actually do what we need it to do. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and take a stab at this. If you have already, that's great. If not, just try and figure out, okay, now that we're inside of the land of Redux, these actions now no longer have access to cart items in the scope of the context. We'll probably have to pass it in. But before you do that, just think about when you're writing these actions anyways, understand the context under which they'll be used and what you might have to do in order to get it to work. So try that out yourself and then join me in the next video where we will code this together as well as finishing up the rest of the setup for this cart.